Hello beautiful people and welcome back to a fantastic episode which is literally similar to the episode which I have uploaded yesterday, which hopefully you guys have watched, on the topic the tank meta, but in this episode we are doing this analysis again, but this time for the Air Force. So what we are gonna do in this episode, I'm gonna present you a certain amount of possible fantastic setups for your Air Force. We're going to analyze each of these setups one by one and see what the numbers are telling us and of course the average performance. And in the end, we're going to put all these setups on the screen in order to take a conclusion which march is the best. So let's start with a quick spoiler right here. What marches will you see? You're going to see Brady, Chinji, and Asuka all with level 5. You're also gonna see Po with level 7 together with Chinji and Asuka, both of them with level 5. You're gonna see Maximo, Chinji and Hazel all with level 5. You're also gonna see Cranston, Duke and Kai all with level 5. And of course, especially for Reba, which is one of our Discord champions, you also gonna see Brady, Striker and Asuka, all of them with level 5. But of course, first of all, let's start by presenting you the opponent for all these tests here. And what you're seeing here is literally the last attack of this setup, Brady with Striker and Asuka, in order to get the numbers. And our opponent is Gypsy, Lila and Crimson. It's of course the Navy, so we have the suppression. It doesn't change the fact that this setup for the Navy is also extremely powerful. You see me using exclusively Air Force units and also using the Red Heavy Trooper. And let's briefly go a second into the stats because it's also important to show you that Brady is with level 5 exclusive skill. Mr. Striker, it's downgraded to level 5 because mine is actually level 7. And of course Asuka is with level 5. This is the gear and you can have a look at it. And of course, here you see the Heavy Trooper. I'm using the Red Heavy Trooper. And of course, it's also here very important to mention that for all these setups, I have to change all the skills, all the stuff, and of course, also the perks. So yes, even though my Striker is set for the tanks, you see him here having the Air Force perks. Let's briefly go also through the stats. You're also going to see me using for all these marches the Shark formation. Now let's have a look at the Air Force stats, which are as follow: 3,864 Air Force HP, 3,534 is Air Force attack, 357 Air Force damage increase, and 359 Air Force damage decrease. Of course, I have a pretty solid Air Force DEF also, which is 25.9, of course, comes a lot from the Heavy Trooper, and the DEF of all units is 71.8%. So let's start with the first possible Air Force meta, which is Brady, Chinji and Asuka. In this case, you're gonna see them all with level 5 exclusive skill. This is actually what I'm using right now as a main march on my Air Force, with a small exception. My Chinji is at level 7, but in order for these tests to be more relevant, Chinji is downgraded to level 5 exclusive skill. So let's have a look at the battle reports. What else should we mention regarding these numbers? So first thing is, this is not the exact order in which these battles actually happened. You can imagine I have sorted these values from the best performance possible, which you're seeing there, up try number 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. And of course the worst performance possible, you see it downstairs, try number 40, 39, 38, 37 and so on. That is the worst performance. The second very important thing which you have to pay attention for the whole length of this video, when I'm presenting you these marches, at the same time I'm also presenting you in exactly the order which we think it's the best order possible, because we are a lot of players out there which do this kind of tests. So yes, that's why you see Brady, Chinji and Asuka. Good. So the performance looks absolutely fantastic. Here we have reached an average of 82%. And why not? Let's have a look at the second possible march when it comes down to the Air Force meta. And I know you guys would like to see now the results of Po instead of Bradley, both with level 5, but there is no point to actually do that because you already have this very deep analysis between Paul level 5 and Brady with level 5 in this video, which you see now on the screen. But you know what, I'm gonna do you one better, because the next match we're gonna have a look at Paul with level 7 with Chinji and Asuka both with level 5, in order to actually see, is Paul with level 7 exclusive skill better than Brady with level 5 exclusive skill. So these are the 40 battle reports, again also sorted. So you see, yeah, the best performance possible is 64% units left on my opponent's march, which kind of looks a little bit better. And of course, the worst performance possible is actually 94% of units left on my opponent, which, yeah, looks kind of pretty bad. Anyways, the average here is 81% of units left on my opponent, which is slightly better than Brady, Chinji and Asuka all being with level 5, which is a bit surprising, but yeah, this is what the numbers are telling us. Good. Let's move to the next possible Airforce meta right now, which is a little bit older, but definitely extremely powerful. So that is, again, pay attention, of the order of the heroes for each of these battle reports. It's Maximo, Chinji and Hazel, all of them with level 5 exclusive skill. Here are the battle tests, all 40 of them, and the best performance possible, again a 68%, which looks pretty awesome, and the worst performance possible is 97% of units left on my opponent march. Let me give you a quick info regarding this setup here, because you're seeing me using Hazel and not Brady. This is an older topic, which a lot of players out there have actually agreed on, that Maximo actually works slightly better together with Hazel, and that's why you don't see me using Brady in here, but using Hazel. Another very important thing we have to mention when it comes down to this setup, of course, due to Mr. Maximo, not just because he's a very old hero, but also because of the Heavy Trooper. Now, his performance with the Heavy Trooper can be very crazy. You see that in the battle reports right here. But even with 4 Heavy Troopers, which we have right now, you can theoretically set 2 Heavy Troopers for your Airforce. In my case, for example, I have 2 Heavy Troopers set for the tanks. But even then, in a normal battle of 1 hour, you're gonna struggle to have the Heavy Troopers all the time alive. In other words, they are gonna be in cooldown in healing. And once the Heavy Trooper is in cooldown and you don't have access to it, Maximo is going to take a massive blow in his performance, because he starts to hit up slot number 4, and a lot of things happen in a battle till your slot number 4 is allowed to hit. Good, let's have a look at another very interesting and this time unique setup for the Airforce meta. In this case is Cranston with Duke and with Kai. Of course, all 3 of them are with level 5 exclusive skills. Here are the battle performance, and of course we see here the best performance possible, again 68%, and of course the worst performance possible is 88% left on my opponent's march. Now let's discuss a second this setup, because it's extremely important to explain you why I'm using exactly this hero. Now, Cranston is also an offense buffing hero, but he has an extra offense buff just for the regular attacks. On top of this, Mr. Duke also has a vitality effect, which is another buff for regular attack damage. And of course, Mr. Kai, his skill is exactly like Barbie, which is regular attacks damage type. And that's why I have chosen this configuration, because it uses absolutely everything at its maximum performance. And of course, we see the average here being 79% of units left on my opponents, which is really not a bad idea. But we have one more setup I would like to show you before we start to talk about the Airforce meta in general. And a special shout out goes to one of my champions on our private Discord, which insisted me to put Striker instead of Chinji, and that's exactly what you're seeing now on the screen. Brady with Striker and Asuka, all of them are with level 5 exclusive skill. Now let's have a look at this battle result, and yeah, you see here the best performance possible is 59% left still on my opponent, which is by far the best one when we have now all the battle reports on the screen. And of course the worst performance possible is also kind of the best, which is 85% of units left. And here we are reaching an average of 75% units still left on my opponent's march, which is, in these configurations which you see on the screen, yes, the best solution possible. But let me give you a quick info regarding this setup right here with Striker instead of Chinji. Now sure, you see a fantastic result, there's no question about it. But sooner or later, you will make a second march, which should definitely be the tanks, because in this case you're having the Airforce setup. And from this perspective, the heroes on your tank meta have enough firepower. While on the planes, yes, you have Brady, which does also a little bit damage from that ignition, of course, also together with Asuka, which is helping him. But I think Chinji is better set on the planes. Of course, if we go back to the tanks and you have chosen to use Mr. Snake Eyes, the best hero possible with the indestructible buff to help Snake Eyes to reach the maximum performance is Mr. Striker. So even though this setup looks absolutely fantastic, if you are having a tank march but also a plane march, this would be my recommendation. That's exactly how I use it myself. Mr. Striker on the tanks and Mr. Chinji on the planes. Of course, if you do not have Striker and Chinji, we are talking now about the newer players. Of course, you can use Duke. I wouldn't though recommend you actually to push into this setup here, Cranston, Duke and Kai. While this looks absolutely great, it also does that because of the extra regular attack buff. Because if we compare, for example, Cranston 1-to-1 with Mr. Brady, Brady is far better overall because you can combine him with a lot of heroes and having a crazy performance, while Mr. Cranston can indeed achieve a good performance here, but only if you set him up with somebody like, for example, in this case, Kai or also Barbie, because their attacks are a regular damage type of attack. Now, of course, there are a few more possibilities of a very, very powerful Airforce march by using, for example, Gypsy as an offense buffing hero or other universal heroes. That's why I think it's important to talk about now about the Airforce meta one more time. So let's start with an offense buffing hero, and actually let's start with Asuka. Yes, technically she is an offense buffing hero, but as I mentioned also in the video uploaded yesterday regarding the tank meta, her offense buff is kind of not that high, but it's possible. Of course, you saw in this video you can use Poe, of course you can use Hazel, of course you can use Cranston, and of course you can use Mr. Gypsy if you don't need them on another march. But fact is, Mr. Brady is absolutely fantastic, extremely strong, and also at the same time his performance is absolutely great with a vast amount of heroes, so you are really not that limited. Good, for the second position we have to use a hero with a defense capability, and of course, as I mentioned also in a video yesterday regarding the tanks, if your stats are somewhere under the stats which you see me having, you definitely need a hero with the indestructible skill for 2 rounds, and we literally have only 3 universal heroes right now when it comes down to the planes. One is Chinji, one is Striker, and one is Mr. Duke. Of course, my recommendation would be to use Mr. Chinji, but if you don't have them, of course you can use Striker, or of course you can use Mr. Duke. If you only have just Duke, you don't have to worry that much, but you have to be patient because a hero with the indestructible buff for 2 rounds is also coming soon. Good, that's the second position. And when it comes down to the third position, this is a so-called support hero. You have a lot of possibilities. As you can see, you can use Asuka in there. You can use Maximo, for example. You can use Kai, but again, you have to pay attention at the perfect configuration. And of course, yeah, you haven't saw me analyzing in this video Barbie, but she also works, for those of you which actually have this hero, she is similar to Asuka. In other words, she doesn't necessarily need the exclusive level 5 skill that fast, but of course Asuka is better. And also, like I mentioned in a video from yesterday regarding the tank meta, as a support hero, definitely you can use Poe, you can use Gypsy, for example. You can use even Crimson. Of course, you won't have this HP enhancement applying to your Airforce, because on Mr. Crimson that just only applies for the Navy. But the hero is absolutely solid from his proc and damage performance. So you see, there are a lot of possibilities. So anyways, beautiful people, this is pretty much how the Airforce meta looks like. I strongly hope that you guys find the value in this type of work or in this type of content. As always, if you still have questions, don't forget to leave them in the comments. If you are one of those players which either understands very fast these videos, or you don't even actually need these videos because you already have this knowledge, and if you want to help me, jump in the comments and answer a few of the questions from other players, as that helps me massively. And not just that, I know exactly how it feels to be a very hasty person. So the longer a player actually waits for an answer, the higher is the probability for him to do a mistake, which is in this type of game either costing you a lot of resourcing or actually costs you real money, which is never a good experience. Beautiful people, thank you for watching. We are on our way now to 12,000 subscribers. So if you want to help not just the channel, but also us in order to improve the game and show River Game we are very well organized, yes, take a moment of your time and check if you are subscribed and help us push to a higher number. As always, beautiful people, thank you for watching, and don't forget to see me in the next episode, which is most likely tomorrow, in which I'm gonna do literally the same thing what you saw me doing today for the planes meta, or what I've done yesterday for the tanks meta, but this time I'm gonna do it for the Navy, and I'm gonna try my best to include as many heroes as possible in order to highlight the performance difference between different March setups. So yeah, thank you for watching, and don't forget to see me in the next episode. Ciao!